Hi everyone. I'm going to take you through a step-by-step guide today of how to use Adobe Photoshop and how to download Adobe Photoshop onto your home computer. It's free. It's here for you to use, and all you really need is your school email address. So I'm going to take you through that. The first thing you need to do is open up a internet browser. Go to Google, for example, and type in Adobe, and then this will take you to the Adobe website. So if you click on that, and then that should open. You can use any internet browser for this. On the top right hand side it says sign in. So if you click on that, then it's going to want you to put in an email address, and the email address that you need to enter is your school email address. So it'll most likely be 16, the first letter of your first name and then your surname. Mine is slightly different, so mine is gkern, and then I'll put at silesian.surrey.sch.uk. So you need to put in your school email address here. And once you've done that, you can type enter, or continue rather. Okay, it's a company or school account, so you need to click on that one. And then this will take you through to the login. Now, once you've logged in, I should mention you've got lots of different packages that you could download. But what you need to click on is your Creative Cloud, which is highlighted there in blue. And once you've clicked on that, it will load up all of the packages that you could download. Today, we just need Adobe Photoshop. So it is right at the top there. It says Photoshop, and it's actually saying that you can download this onto a desktop computer or a phone. Now, you need this on a computer or a laptop for it to work fully, to get full use of all of the proper tools. So what you need to do is then click on Get App, which is there in blue. Now, I've already downloaded this, so where it says open, it would say download, and that will then download straight to your computer. So you're going to need to follow the instructions from there, but it's very simple. I've already got this downloaded, so I just need to click open. Once you've got that downloaded, you can then go ahead and open it. Now, for it to download, it should probably only take about 10-15 minutes, maybe half an hour tops, depending on your internet download speed. So download that. It'll appear somewhere on your desktop as an application. You can open it up, and then we can go from there. So what you'll notice is at the bottom there it says drag and drop an image. So you can drag an image or copy and paste an image straight into that box for it to open, or you can click open on the left hand side. So if we go ahead and click that, I'm going to go to my desktop or wherever your image is, click the image that you'd like to open and press OK, and that will then load up. So this is my image here. Now first of all, I'm going to right click and I'm going to click duplicate layer, just so that I've got a copy of the image that I'm working with. So I'm going to rename that as copy. This is always really good practice, is to duplicate your layers and to rename them so that you don't get lost. And then you're going to need to make sure that you have clicked on the layer that you'd like to be working on. In fact, I'm just going to relay that contrast, because that's the setting that I'm going to be playing around with first of all. Let's go up here to image at the top. I'm going to scroll down to adjustments, and then as you can tell, I've named it contrast. I'm going to click brightness/contrast. Now you've got some options here. There's two sliding bars, and you can see as you slide them from left to right, you get some different effects on your image. So already we only really need to click on one thing, and we've already got some options. Now these two sliders, they influence each other. So the top one there, if we slide that to the left and now slide the bottom one to the left and to the right, you can see that it has an effect. So that's the first thing that we're going to do, is just have a little look at brightness and contrast. Now already that was 5 to 10 seconds, and we've got some quite interesting effects. If we just toggle the eye icon there, that'll turn that layer on and off essentially, and you can see the effect that it's already had on that image. So to save this, you go to save as, save to your computer, and then you can rename that something a bit more memorable. I'd also recommend as well, it says .psd there, I'd recommend that you save that as a JPEG. You can save it as a .psd if you're still going to be working on it in Photoshop, But as a normal image, if you scroll down to JPEG, not JPEG 2000, if you go to JPEG, click there, that will save to your computer somewhere, wherever you select to save it, as a JPEG. But for the time being, we're going to carry on. So we've got our 2 layers. So I'm going to duplicate it again. Now, something important to note is that these layers have an order to them, and depending on the order of the layers depends on what you see. So the top layer generally will be the one that you see. So if I click and drag, I can change the layer order, which is what I'm going to do here. So as I said, if I click and drag, you can see that I can change the layer order around. So now that the layer at the top is the one that I want, is the one that I can see. So I'm going to relabel this one and call it color. So by double clicking on the name, I relabel that. Then I go up to image, adjustments, and down to color balance. And you can see here now I have some more options to play with. So I've got various different colors here. And as you might have guessed, the sliders in the middle, as I move those from left or to right, it's going to change the color balance within the image. Now you can change all of these at the same time. You don't have to just be working with one of them. So I've moved the top one. Now I'm going to have a look at the middle one. So again, I go from left to right, and now if I move the top one again, you can see that has more of an effect. Okay, once you're happy with that, you can just select OK. Now, rather than starting from scratch, I'm going to right click that top layer. So rather than starting from the original image, I'm going to right click that, and I'm going to go for duplicate layer, same as before. And this time we're going to look at using some filters. So I'm going to call this one filter 1. Haven't yet decided what filter I'm going to use, so I just call it filter number 1. Okay, and then up here you've got filter, you've got filter gallery, and this gives us loads of options to work with. Really easy, simple way to edit images. If your image is too zoomed in and you'd like to just get a bit more of a clear idea of the whole image, the bottom left there you can tap minus and that'll zoom out. Now it's already selected on the cutout filter, so you can see the effect that's had. If I just click through, you'll be able to get an idea that each filter here has a completely different effect on the image. What we're trying to do here is find a filter that relates to your project. So mine's about decay, so I'm going to look for a filter that, brings across that message of decay. So I'd encourage you to do the same thing and even experiment with as many as possible. The more you include in your research, in your book, shows the more that you're experimenting with different things. This one's really cool, really dark, really vibrant. So again, on the right hand side are some sliding bars that you can have a play around with. Some cause more effect, some not as much. So if I slide this one all the way to the right, we'll wait for that to load up. That's too dark. So now I've got to a stage that I'm not really happy with. So again, you're going to have to backtrack slightly and just rewind those sliders. You can always just change it around. If you really don't like what you've done, you can press cancel. But let's just have a little see if I can get that back to a little bit more. There we go, a state that I'm happy with. Okay, there we are. Now, I also just want to mention that the filters you're currently seeing are within a folder. So the filter watercolor is within a folder called artistic. If you scroll down, there are even more folders that you could open up. Now let's have a look at cutout. This is the one that we started with. This is the one that I'd like to be using. So this is cutout. It's got a great effect. But on the right hand side here, let's just have a play around with changing some of these values. So if I slide it to the left, I'm going to get a more simple image. Now this is great for progress and for development. So you could stop that slider at each of those points and you could save that image or take a screenshot and you could include that in your book just to show all of the stages available to you. So it's a really quick way of showing development. Just change that slider from all the way to the left all the way to the right, and at each stage you could take a screenshot and you could stick that into your book and just talk about the differences and which one you prefer. Okay, I'd like to add a bit more detail, so slide a bit more to the right. We want a bit more vibrancy and detail to work with here. And once you're happy, again, you can press OK. Now I'm highlighting this box here because, as well as including images, if you screenshot the settings that you're working with, you can stick them next to the photo that you've produced. So if you include the features themselves, the settings, that's a great way of showing to the examiner that this is the setting that you used. Rather than just creating a load of images without any understanding of how you created them, you could actually create a screenshot of the tool or the setting that you used. Now, what I'm going to show you to do is how to save these images. So you can see I'm unchecking all of these layers, and I just want the background layer. Then I go to File, Save As, Save to your computer. We did do this before. And as before, I'm going to label this. I'm going to call it background. I've saved it to my desktop, and I save it as a JPEG. Okay. We can press OK. Now if I minimize that, you'll see that it's saved there as background. I'm going to open up PowerPoint. You could also do this in a Word document. On a Mac, you can drag it over. On a Windows computer, you can right click and select copy and then right click and paste. Okay, we're going to resize that. We're going to pop this here, and now it's ready for printing. However, we'll do this with all of our layers. So we go back, let's toggle then the next layer, File, Save As. This one we'll call Contrast. Save it as a JPEG. Remember, you can also still leave it as a photo, as a PSD file if you want to carry on working on it. Okay, that's done the same thing. You can see it's there. I drag that over, and I'm going to resize that. Okay. Now, I'm just going to fast forward ahead slightly because it's the same process repeated over and over. But then, do you see, slowly we've got these images coming together. We can resize them. You can crop them slightly on PowerPoint. And this is a really nice, neat, professional way of getting your photos ready to be printed out and stuck into your book. Okay, I've just fast forwarded slightly here. You can now see that I've saved each layer and popped this into the PowerPoint. On top of that, I've got 2 screenshots of the settings that I've used. Now, if you are aiming for higher grades, the more experimentation you can show, the better. So I've only actually really done 3 experiments here. I've got the original image, I've got an image that's played around with contrast, I've got an image that's played around with colour, and then an image that's played around with the cutouts filter, which is the one that I've highlighted here. As I said, the more of these that you can show, the better really, but it's all got to be purposeful. Don't just do it for the sake of it. You know, in your annotation you can talk about why you've chosen these settings, and then you can highlight which ones you'll be taking forwards. Hello, if you're still with me at this stage and you haven't dropped off with boredom, then I just wanted to talk you through some little tips that I could share about my example that you can see on my example page layout for the Photoshop experimentation. So if you zoom in on this image, you can see that not only is it this sort of disgusting strawberry, there's actually these little skulls hidden in it as well, and this just is all about pushing through that idea of my theme of decay. So as you can see where my mouse is, I've got all my different layers here labelled up, and I wanted to show you some of the things that I did in order to get this image looking how it has turned out. It's just that same image of the strawberry, playing around with the filters. As you can see, I'm going onto the filter gallery now. I've used the cutout, and then I played around with those settings. So let's have a little look here. I'm going to go to image adjustments, and just again highlight the ones that I've used here. I've used brightness and contrast, I've used hue and saturation and color balance, but again all of this is going to be different for you guys. You can use whatever you'd like, and I wanted to just show you some other things that I haven't already covered. So let's go to File and then Open, and we're going to open up the image of a skull. So I wanted to just say that you can have 2 images open at the same time. So you can toggle between your 2 images. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy that image of the skull onto the image of the strawberry. However, we're going to do it on a new layer. So bottom right hand side where the plus sign is, is for a new layer. Double click, we're going to label it new skull. Okay, so that's the layer that's highlighted. Then we're going to go back to our skull, and I'm going to show you how to, well, one way in fact, how you could cut this out. So all of these tools on the left hand side, they do different things, and if you hold down on them, they do even more things. So it's really a great opportunity for you to have a little play about here. So again, the tool on the left hand side, hold down and it will reveal even more. Now look, rather than ignoring what all of these things do, let's just, if you go to colour replacement tool, for example, if you've got no idea what that does, open up the search engine, go to YouTube, and you can simply type in how to use the colour replacement tool, for example, and there are so many videos for free of people showing you, and look, most of them are under sort of 10 minutes, how to use these tools. For the time being, let's go up here. If you click on that one there, it would normally say lasso tool, but if you click and hold, you can get the magnetic lasso tool. And then I'm going to zoom in. To zoom in, I can click the magnifying glass, and then at the top there is a plus. Or you can press Control and plus or minus, or if you're on a Mac you can press Command plus and minus. So I zoom in, and then I'm going to select my magnetic lasso tool, and I click once, and then as I move my mouse you'll see that it starts to trace the outline of my shape. It does work better with images that have a blank background. Now if you go wrong, if you slip, it's fine. You can just gently work backwards or just tap delete. If you tap delete, that will delete the last point that was made. Tap delete, and that's it. This is what I'm saying, if you zoom here, then it helps. Now sometimes this will happen. You'll end up in a bit of a panic, and you'll have all of these squiggly lines all over the place. If it does happen, double click, and then right click and just press deselect, okay, and then you can start from scratch. So don't get yourself into a panic. If it goes all wibbly and wrong, double click, then right click and do deselect and start again. So carefully go around the image. You want to zoom in slightly every now and again. Remember, just press delete. There we go. I mean, the neater you can get this, the better it's going to look. As I said, there's so many different ways of doing this. It might be that this is just a bit of a pain for you, so you might want to go online and go onto YouTube and type in how to cut out an image. Okay, nearly there. Now, once you come towards the end of this, you will notice that a little 0 appears, or a circle. You see it there? And that means that it wants to just close up that gap. So once you click, that will be the final point, and then you'll get this moving sort of wiggly line around the whole image. Okay, that means it's now been copied. So now you could press Command and C on a Mac, or Control and C, which is copy, on a desktop. So it's the same command. And then you go over to your original image, make sure you're on the right layer, Control and V, or Command and V. And there we go, there it is. Okay, now on the left hand side we've got the move tool, so now you can move it around. And if you want to make it bigger or smaller, you go to Edit, Transform, and then Scale. Notice there's lots of different other things you can do as well, and that will make it bigger or smaller. And once you're happy with the size and you're happy with where you've popped it, press Enter. And there we go, there we have it. Now you can also, there's a command which is Control and T, or Command and T, and by doing that, that's a shortcut that will mean you can rotate it, and you can also change the scale. And again, once you're done, press Enter. Great. Now, what we're going to do here is we're just going to place that, and I'm going to go into Filter, Filter Gallery, and this time I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try one of the other settings. Let's go to Stained Glass. Brilliant, I like the way that that looks. I'm quite happy with that. I might make the cell size slightly larger. Fantastic, and then I'll hit enter. Okay, now let's see what we can do. We'll zoom in slightly, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this skull the size of the strawberry, or at least make it a little bit bigger. So before I do that, I'm going to change the opacity down, and the opacity is basically translucency. So if I go all the way to 0, it disappears, and as I slide it back up, you'll see that that makes the image more translucent against the background. So what this means is that we can basically see what we've got going on underneath, and it gives it quite a nice ghost-like effect as well. So if you're trying to merge images together, this is a good thing that you can do. Okay, let's enlarge it. Good. There we go. Okay, I think that's about right. Let's press enter. Now, the problem I've got is this outline here of the skull is quite harsh against the strawberry. It just looks like it's been plonked on top. So what we're going to do is, did you see I clicked and held there, and I've now got the bucket tool, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to fill in some of these shapes. So I want to take that colour, so I'm going to go to the eyedropper tool on the left, and what the eyedropper tool does, it's like a pipette. If you click an area, it'll mimic that colour. So look, I've now got that shade of black there. So I click on the red, go back to my bucket tool, and I click, and look, I can just fill in those spaces around the edge. Put one there, and it's just going to break that outline up a bit so it doesn't look as harsh. Okay, now I'm going to change colour, do a couple more. So eyedropper tool, now I've got the black, back to the bucket tool, and there we go, I'm filling in. You can use the bucket tool for loads of different things. The only thing is with the bucket tool is it will only fill an area that has a solid edge, otherwise it'll flood the whole area. So it's only working here because these shapes have solid edges. Okay, so we'll just go around. I've zoomed in here, makes life a little bit easier. Perhaps zoom out in a moment just to see what I'm doing, just to make sure I'm happy with it. Okay, these white spaces here on the edge, get rid of those. Good, it just looks a bit more natural now. There we go. Now what you'll also have noticed is my opacity is still down. So if I go back to the opacity bar, on the right hand side, I can change that. So I'm going to get that nice light pink this time, just to add a bit of flare of colour. Now what you'll notice is that the pink that I've selected, it's not coming out as strong. And that's because my opacity is still lower. So if I go back to that slide, I'm going to go all the way back up to the top. Now you'll see the pink that I flood in is much brighter. So you can do this just to get a sense of it. And then I might go back to my opacity and I might change it back again. Or at least find a happy medium between the two. Okay, and that is about it.